The SMS manual provides guidance on specific aspects of navigation. Under-keel clearance is important to navigation. The approved stability book that should be held on board gives details of tank capacities and examples of draft, trim and righting levers for various conditions of loading. At all times a safe condition must be maintained with the boat on an even keel or trimmed consistent with maintaining good handling and maneuvering characteristics. A boat operating in a light condition, with minimum tank capacities, is to be avoided wherever possible. In particular, a light condition whilst carrying a deck cargo will significantly alter the boat's handling characteristics. Free surfaces and tanks are to be avoided at all costs. With the exception of fuel oil and freshwater tanks, other tanks should be either full or empty, whilst engaged in underway. Always be conscious of the fact that an emergency situation can develop quickly and that crew safety is paramount. Consider your actions and intended maneuver carefully. The captain is the best judge of what can or cannot be done when maneuvering the boat. The responsibility for supplying and updating publications and inserting chart corrections is a fundamental duty of both operational management and the captain. Its importance cannot be overemphasized. Failure to comply is a criminal offense and no excuses are acceptable in law. Either an agreement with an approved chart agent for periodic chart correction or arrangements for supply of weekly notices to mariners must be in place to enable chart correction. Amendments to charts, sailing directions, lists of lights, etc. should be inserted immediately on receipt and the information communicated to the crew. Do not forget to remove and destroy the superseded or out-of-date document. Even if charts are periodically sent ashore for correction, amendments must be inserted immediately on receipt. The SMS manual lists the vessel's technical library. All of these publications and documents are periodically reviewed and must be kept in an updated condition. Do not under any circumstances keep two versions of a publication on board, in particular, last year's Nautical Almanac. The technical library would be subject to audit during a vessel's quality and safety management audit. The pre-sailing checklist must be completed before the vessel leaves port, or starts operations in the port. The completion of the checklist must be recorded in the deck logbook. Under no circumstances should a vessel commence movements until these checks have been completed. There is no requirement to complete these checklists if crew are on board for maintenance work only and not involved in navigation activities. If a check proves unsatisfactory, it is to be reported and an assessment made of the potential risk involved. In many circumstances, sufficient redundancy exists on board to enable operations to carry on, for example, 2 radars or VHF radios. Unsatisfactory performance checks of engines and steering equipment are to be given the highest priority. If a vessel has been inactive for a longer than usual period of time, sufficient time must be allowed to ensure all systems are working correctly and operating within acceptable parameters, temperatures, performance requirements, etc. In these circumstances, it may be necessary to carry out special procedures in addition to the pre-sailing checklist. Such special procedures should be determined and specified by the operations manager. Watchkeeping responsibilities whilst carrying out normal operations are to comply with port state regulations and standing orders, as well as the guidelines for keeping a safe navigational watch. Fundamental to any safe watchkeeping routine, whilst underway, are the following 4 factors. Maintain a proper and efficient lookout. Comply with collision regulations. Be sure of vessel's position. Never leave the bridge unattended. It is a fundamental requirement of operations to comply with all local port authority bylaws, regulations, contingency or emergency plans, and the international collision regulations. Speed restrictions must be strictly complied with. Remember, other port users may not be professionally aware of the dangers involved. Small pleasure craft, people on the fresher, sub-aqua divers, and contractors working on jetties or berths may be swamped and injured by a vessel's wash, if going at an excessive speed. During restricted visibility, additional watchkeeping responsibilities must be considered. These are: the captain must take charge of conning the vessel and have another member of crew on to act solely as lookout. Maintain a speed at which a collision is avoidable. Use all electronic navigational aids at your disposal to determine own position and other ships' positions. If possible, do not rely solely on electronic navigation aids. Close watertight doors and openings to maintain watertight integrity. Make the appropriate sound signals in accordance with collision and port regulations. Comply with Rule 19 of collision regulations at all times. It is expected that all watchkeepers are conversant with the operating manuals for navigation equipment fitted on board. Many items of equipment are fitted with a self-test facility, for example, SART and EPIRB, etc., and this should be checked on a regular basis to confirm correct operation. If a self-test facility is not fitted, other known means should be used to establish correction function. Check radar ranges and bearings against visual fixing. Check the echo sounder against charted depth, compass error, both gyro and magnetic, by transit bearing or leading lights.